Well, this is actually the quiet part of the quiet storm. Let me move this around just a little bit. Okay, so this is the Mark 1 extruder. Okay, and the Mark 1 extruder is a type of crunch nut type of design. The other design that we had was a worm gear style design, which was the Mark 2s and Mark 3s. We had a couple of issues with the Mark 2s and the Mark 3s. Specifically, the reason why we broke it up between the Mark 2 and the Mark 3 is because we were trying to get something that was going to be a much higher temperature with the Mark 3 in order to run the nylon, because a lot of people had asked if the nylon, since the nylon at the time required a much higher temperature to print with. So we didn't have the right heating elements, which this guy now does. There were also a couple of individual reliability issues when it came to priming and unpriming with the worm gear that we were using. We have since scrapped that guy. We went back to one of the original extruder designs we were looking at originally, which was the Mark 1. The Mark 1 was a crunch nut design. The very first worm gear design was actually the beginning of the Mark 2. So there's the difference between the Mark 1 and Mark 2. Now, when it comes to the actual design. Now, when it comes to what you're going to be able to do with it, the Mark 1s do everything that the Mark 3s were promised to do, except for the fact that the Mark 2s and Mark 3s were created for 3mm plastic, and now we're currently using 1.75mm plastic. Now, the Mark 1s also come in, which we're working on. I'm not sure if it's going to be released until the end of this year, maybe into 2014. Is going to be the Mark 1 using a 3mm plastic filament instead of the 1.75mm plastic filament. So there is that. So everything the Mark III can do that we said that was going to be a little bit higher temperature to be able to handle the nylons that are out there, we've already proven that it does work. So what you're getting is by far the best of the best, already included inside of your pre-order. And that also goes for all the Kickstarters who are out there. You guys are getting the best of the best when we ship. So, good question. So, hopefully that answers the question. And I know the Mark II information is still out there, and I do apologize. I haven't gotten a chance to update it just as of yet. Mark II and Mark III information. So, those guys will be coming down. Mark I's going to be going out the door, and I think everyone's going to be happy because this guy, as I said before, he's been printing like a beast. I mean, I think I've got close to 700 hours worth of printing time on this guy, as is. So yes, great question, Ian. This is so the E5 comes with 4 Mark 1s, correct? Yes, it does come standard with 4 Mark 1s. If you did not want to substitute in one of the Mark 1s or 2 or 3 or even all 4 for an EMO 25 standard package, and the EMO 25 standard package. Well, geez, I can actually show this to you. So the EMO 25 standard package comes with one of these guys, which is the EMO. There you go. Which is the EMO 25 apparatus, one EMO cartridge, and we also make the actual tips. Right here we have 3 tips. One's a 1mm, 1.5mm, and a 2mm diameter nozzle tip. This guy actually has a 2mm nozzle tip in there. So if you wanted to substitute in one of these guys in for one of the Mark 1s, you're more than happy to do so. And yeah, and that goes for everyone, including the Kickstarters who are out there. So there you go. Yes, you did. So, and you'll be getting the Pro package, which is 2 of these guys, 2 of these extruders, and a couple nozzles. So about 3 more nozzles, and we have found that by the time you go through one of these guys, it pretty much is ready to, and you've loaded up the other one, it's pretty much ready to pop out, pop back in, and go from there. So, great question. Okay. Oh man, this guy is just looking really nice. Really nice. So if anybody has any other questions, please ask them. If you got more questions at the end, please let me know. I want to make sure you're getting exactly what you're looking for. So, let's see. Oh, can you also tell me what actually comes as standard on the E5 and what accessories are available besides the EMO package? Yes. What comes standard on the E5 besides the 4 extruders that you see there and the EMO Pro package that you ordered is that we're also going to be including the dial gauge that we showed off a little bit earlier tonight. I'm going to take this guy, move this guy back just a little bit. So it's this guy right here, along with the fact that we do training on how to tram and all that stuff. That's all included. Obviously, we also include a couple of other pieces. We have on order, basically you're going to be getting a couple of Allen wrenches, and these Allen wrenches are going to be for tramming. So that is, you have the 050 and you got a 2.5 millimeter hex Allen wrench in order to tram your bed. We have these guys on order right now, which are going to be replacing the little Allen wrench that you see right here in order to do your tramming. Also standard, I believe we're including 1 filament reel of plastic. Maybe 2. I can't remember how many right off the top of my head. It's kind of late here, but we've been here for quite some time this morning. But you will be having some filament so you guys can print right out of the box. Plenty of it as well. But here again, we're not going to be doing the razor and blades model for that. So that's also another little standard thing that if you want to buy somebody else's filament and throw it through the machine, you can definitely do that too. What else comes standard? With the E5, obviously you get the computer, you get the heated bed. You also get there's I'm sorry guys, my mind is blanking. The computer, the LCD screen is a touch screen. You're getting the wide Z-axis as well, since you are paying more than the Kickstarters did for that upgrade. Let's see, what else did you get? I think software is included for the very first couple of years for any kind of upgrade that we have. And don't worry about the maintenance packages they're going for. We're not going to lock you out just because you didn't pay for the software. That's just absolutely ridiculous. It's a business model that we don't like. We don't like doing the razor blades model. We don't like doing that either. So, have a good one. Less music. Have good night and enjoy. If you wanted to buy a couple of other different accessories, right now there are 2 of them that come to mind. Besides the tramming gauge, if you wanted to get a second one, a tramming kit. The second one is, second one is for accessory wise is the Quiet Storm, which is that guy right there who's blowing air onto the actual build. There's also the Inspector, and the Inspector is one that we have rarely shown out to anyone who unless those guys were looking for an inspection tool. It is a digital microscope. It works quite well. It already currently works with the engines and also with the systems, which is one of the reasons why we have put up here these 3 USB guys you see up there. It plugs in. It's a plug-and-play digital microscope that you're able to see the actual build quality of your part. Let's see what else. Everyone got upgraded so that you could be basically, if you wanted to, and this is in part because of Les Music, who just left. Thank you very much, Les. As on the system, if you wanted to control your engine from your phone, you have the power to do so. If you need us to help you out with that, you have the power to do so. And that's just something that comes standard. So. Also, the camera that's on the underside of the yoke, which I'm pretty sure I can't get a good shot with the camera as of right now. but it does work. It works on the systems, it works on the engines, and you will be able to actually monitor your build even from your phone. And this is an Android. iPhone works just fine. Windows Phone, same thing. Basically just any one of the phones that are out there, or if you have an iPad or if you have a tablet or anything like that, it works on that too. Although the as we found with David Gaipa, with the iPad, you're going to have to make sure that it does not try to resize the what you have. That, and also you're going to need to have an internet connection in order to do so. It does work over Wi-Fi, although we highly recommend that you go out and buy your own Wi-Fi dongle. We can do it here if you want to. I think it's $100 charge because of the amount of testing that we do on it. We go out and get yourself a little USB dongle. You can do this yourself and load on your own firmware. I'm sorry, not your own firmware, your own drivers. Wow. And the last couple of things we have for the engine, there's a watchmaker's light that we haven't talked about very much. We're still on the fence as to whether or not we're going to offer it, because it worked well. It works very, very well. But the more and more we work with the machine, it's not one of those things where it's absolutely needed. It's something that where it's nice, but it's not absolutely needed. Not unless, and in some people's cases, you're trying to search and trying to find your glasses wherever you go. Then it is somewhat of a nice thing. So the watchmaker's light is basically a magnifying glass with an LED ring that goes all around, and it's got a nice movable arm, articulating arm that you can actually, or they can bend into practically any position that you want that goes on this guy, on your engine. It does not work on the systems because there isn't a very good place to mount the watchmaker's light. So there are a lot of other accessories that we have, but we have not shown just as of yet. And the reason why is because we haven't tested them as thoroughly as we want to test them. So when they're ready, we'll let you know. So good. So any more questions? Let me know. Yep. Oh yeah, it's still printing. Oh yeah, it's printing nicely. Huh? Oh. Okay. So that explains quite a bit. Now I can just put this guy down. There you go. Perfect. All right. See you tomorrow, Carl. All right. Whew. Thanks, Dan. I have more orders slowed for the 17th, but you said I don't think we'll leave until early January, correct? Don't know. We recently had someone who dropped out of Kickstarter, who, not dropped out, I'm sorry, that's the wrong word, who recently went from an engine to a system. So I'll have to go back and check, because that bumps everyone who's getting an engine up in line. So you may get it sooner rather than later. And considering that you're in Australia, you may get it even sooner than that. But we have to double check with a few things first. So if it comes a little bit sooner, I don't think you're going to be complaining. But I'm trying not to get your hopes up. But just to let you know that there is a possibility it may get there sooner than early January. Yes. Here again, everyone, including the Kickstarters, have been pushed back because we've been working on the firmware, we've been working on the software, and dialing the stuff in to get it to work just fine. So, okay, good, excellent. All right, thank you, Ian. Oh yeah, this is working. This perfect. Right, guys, looks like we're roughly about 34,000 lines in out of a 48,000 line print. So it looks like we're approaching 75% of the way done. So, well, 60 to 70% of the way done. So, and what it's printing right now, what this guy is that guy right up there. So. Oh, excellent, Ian. Since you have the gear to build your own box, what dimensions should be width, depth, and height? Yeah, give me just one moment. Let me have some down now. Ooh, whoops. Here we go. Let me see. I measured this before and I have it on one of the brochures. So if you hold on just for one moment, I'm going to pull it up. Because I remember measuring it out. I just don't have the numbers right off the top of my head. The biggest thing you're going to have to contend with is the X bed moving back and forth. So that is going to be the biggest issue that you have. Hold on one moment. And it's loading. It's loading. It's loading. Here we go. Okay. The build envelope requirements is length, which is your X, is going to be 23 inches in your X. So I'd make it at least 24 in the width, which is from front to back. We're saying roughly about 15 inches when it comes to the build envelope. I would plan on, if you're going to have the spool holders in the back, let me just find a tape measure really quick. It's going to be a little bit longer than that. There we go. You don't necessarily have to have the spool holders on the back, but it is quite nice if you do. That's right about 21 inches. If without the spool holders, you're looking at roughly about 15 inches. But I would count on about 16 inches because the motor on the extruder, the Mark 1 extruders, do protrude a little bit further. So 16 inches is going to be at the bare minimum. And then height-wise, we've been using the number is basically 32. I would say you could make it even taller if you wanted to. But the System 30, which is basically 30 inches from the base all the way up to the top, is what we've been using. So I only say 32 just because of the way that the Bowden tube, which is not the Bowden tube, but the actual this particular tube that you have right here, goes up to. So just so that you're aware. Perfect. So, there you go. Yep. You're welcome in. Oh, that's right. You're in Australia. You guys are actually using metric. I apologize. I don't. You're gonna have to do the conversion. I still don't understand why we're on. You know. Not on metric. So, good. Okay, sorry. Excellent. Okay. let's see. So if I want to add anything, just do it from the shop. Yeah, absolutely. Or you can email me at HYREL3D@gmail.com, and we'll take care of you. So I will take care of you. So, but if you go through the shop, that'll probably be far one of the best ways to go. Oop. There it goes. Notice the feed was running kind of weird right there. Sorry about that, guys. I bumped into the USB cord, so it looked like it stopped there for half a second. Apologize for that. Nice. Okay. How are you with the laser add-on? Oh! Ian, you're asking fantastic questions. In fact, hold on one moment. Okay. We're about 10,000 lines away, guys. Alright. And because you asked, yes, we do have a laser attachment. You guys may have seen that in the System 30 video. What you probably saw was this guy. And yes, this is a prototype that we've been working off of. We actually got this guy to work. So, like this. There you go. He does work. He does burn through stuff, and he's a heck of a lot of fun, but he's also very dangerous when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, if you have your hand or anything like that in the right position. I gotta tell you, Carl worked on this guy for quite some time in order to get him to work just right. There were a lot of little things that we found and little gotchas when it comes to getting the correct laser, and getting the correct laser attachment. On top of that, yes, it is using our standard board that's on the back side of the Quiet Storm and also on the extruder. So this guy, I think, now please understand that the lasers that we have are going to be very, very low power to begin with. I can't remember what power this guy was laser-wise, and I think the newest one that we have, we just got in the other room that Carl's still putting together, which he basically said do not touch, is a 4-watt laser. We also have on order right now a 10-watt laser that is going to be one of these types of attachments. Now we can go a lot higher than 10 watts, but as of right now, for the safety of everyone who's going to be using this, we definitely would say that 10 watts is probably going to be more than enough. The reason why we're stopping there right now is for a couple of different reasons. We don't see needing to go any higher than that without having, when it comes to using the engine, when it comes to being fully exposed, because we are using IR an IR laser in order to actually cut through everything. For the higher power stuff, we would highly recommend using the system and using the enclosed version of the system. And even with the 2, the 4, and the 10-watt lasers, especially when it comes to cutting foam and other types of stuff, that stuff does produce a lot of fumes, and you're going to want to have it in an enclosure, or you're going to want to have it in a very well ventilated area. It will cut. We've proven that this guy that we have right here does cut, and in fact, I'm not sure if we showed this on one of the past broadcasts, but if you give me just one moment, Let me show you guys what it did. Okay, just kidding. Apparently someone took the little piece of acrylic board that we had that was etched into quite nicely, so there you go. Sorry, I wasn't able to show that. But yes, this was the very first attempt at making the laser work. It does work, it does burn through stuff, burns through a lot of foam, burns through cardboard. It's a very nice design, actually. It actually came together quite nicely, all things considered. So, considering that we can still use the same board as our extruders, and also it's programmable, you know, I gotta say, not half bad. So, there you go. And you've got a 40 watt and an 80 watt. Well, geez, man, you're pretty much set up. You're ready to rock and roll. So, oh, you do run a laser CNC. Okay, yeah. Anything higher than 10, you know, it's not going to be happy. The bed that you see right here is not going to be happy with it. So, that's the reason why we're running at a much lower wattage, among other things. But yes, a 10 watt laser. We're envisioning being able to cut through 1/8, or no, is it 1/8? I think don't quote me on this, guys, but I think it's going to be able to cut through acrylic, thin sheets of acrylic, or as you guys call it down in Australia, I think it's Perspex, I think. So, thank you, Tim, for that one. But yeah, it's good stuff, very good stuff. But yes, the laser does work, and if anybody wants one, we will probably be selling that. That's another one of those little attachments that we have not released yet to the public. We will be, be releasing it out there pretty soon. So, looking at something for small 2mm Perspex, so 10 watt would be great. Oh, excellent. Okay, well, it just drops onto the machine, and it's if you've got the pattern, if you got the right G-code pattern, it'll cut through it. I mean, heck, the 2 watt laser that is a 2 watt. I'm sorry. Now that I remember, it is a 2 watt laser, and it does cut through that at least the top part of the acrylic that we had that was mounted on paper, or had a paper backing. It cut through it quite nicely, but it didn't cut through all the way through the acrylic. So just so you guys don't get your hopes up for a 2 watt laser. It made some etchings, but it did not cut all the way through. So there you go. Oh, thank you, Ian. It's actually about, let's see, about 6,000 lines away from being finished. So, now when I say lines, guys, even when as you guys can see this guy going back and forth rapidly, that counts as a line. As it moves in one of these longer moves where it goes back like this and then like that, that also is a single line. So the lines that you see right there are not indicative as to how long the print's going to last. It just tells you how many lines that are left. We do have a way of estimating how much time it's going to take for your print to finish, but here again, it's not as robust as we want it to be. So, and that's the reason why we're going to be why we've been working on our own slicer. And yes, everyone who gets an engine or system, you will be getting the latest